Hey guys. Hey guys. How is everybody? Trying to catch this press conference so we can share it real quick. LA District Attorney George Gascon's Menendez Brothers. Let's see. About to start. Kitty Menendez's 92-year-old sister. You see pictured there, seen in that live vantage point. She called for the brothers' release last week at a press conference that we did showcase for you here at Live Now from Fox. Now, that is the sister of Kitty. All right, so I figured we would. I've got it playing on my phone so I can catch it when they actually come on. Hope everybody's doing good. I was watching Lady Simon. It went to the jurors. I ran to the store and got this notification, so I tried to hurry back. I know we only have a couple here. Hello, everybody. Say hello. I hope everybody is doing good and having a good week. Mine has been quite busy. Tell you what, let's play a minute.
Should be released. In fact, once they do not pose a threat to society.
So let that
a lot
play.
to consider for his office. Mark Garagos, their attorney, also said they brought this up about a year ago or so. While the accusation has been, is this a political issue for the DA right now? Garagos is saying, we filed papers over a year ago. We've been waiting for an answer on this.
Yeah, certainly it has been quite some time. And, you know, it's interesting because we kind of go to the fact, oh, the boys, right? Keep in mind, Lyle Menendez was 21, Eric Menendez 18 when they admitted to fatally shooting their parents. So very young. So that is why kind of the instinct is that they're brothers, young, you know, had their future ahead of them. And then this happened, totally turning their lives, their world upside down, their families' worlds upside down. And clearly, we've been following this case for 34 years now. They've served behind bars, again, sentenced to a life in prison without the possibility of parole. So that is why this is so major when we talk about resentencing. But Christine, hang on here, because we do have Christina Gonzalez inside that room where this is all about to take place. Christina, if you could hear me, what is the atmosphere like in there right now?
Well, hopefully you can hear me. I can't stand in front of the camera because we've got literally over 50 cameras inside a small room, so I'm behind them. But there's everybody has been waiting. Obviously, most of the family, except the woman you see in front, that's Joan Vandermolen. Now, Joan, that's Kitty Menendez's sister. As you mentioned, she has been very, very vocal. She's the only one that's not in the back room because she does walk with a walker. She has difficulty moving, so they would rather her stay sitting down.
She is the one that they were really concerned about being able to still be here to testify if this was put off much longer. And that is Kitty's sister. I believe that's Kitty's sister.
But she has been very vocal, saying to us last time I talked to her that, you know, if the case were tried today, the evidence of the father's abuse would not only be admitted in court, it would probably provide essential context as to why the Menendez brothers acted as they did. She does not believe a jury today would issue such a hard sentence. Now,
100% if this trial was today, we would be looking at this a lot differently, because in the early 90s, we still weren't recognizing that males were abused as much as females. And then they didn't even allow all the evidence into the case, so it was just a very one-sided case.
Now, with that said, her brother, who is not here today, Milton Anderson, he is represented by an attorney. He believes completely the opposite. What Milton has said is that he believes the brothers acted out of greed, that he has said on the record that they knew that their father was going to take them out of the will, and that when they found that out, they went out and bought the shotguns and shot both of them, including a reload, before trying to make sure, quote unquote, as it was said in the trials, that Kitty was dead. Now, I covered both trials, and I have to say, in the first trial,
Hey, everybody coming in. I hope you're having a great Thursday. Kind of a last minute live because of the press conference. I've been wanting to talk about this case, and just long story short, I'll get to that later. However, thank you for joining me, and let's hopefully this DA comes on and gives us this information.
The evidence of sexual abuse was allowed. We heard really riveting, tearful testimony about the sexual abuse that was alleged at that point. We even heard from, you talked about a letter earlier that was written that is part of the new evidence. That cousin that letter was written to by Kyle Menendez was up on the stand, and he did say that he had been told about the sexual abuse. He never mentioned a letter about it, but he did talk about it. What happened is,
and again, we are watching Fox News as they share the press conference in LA from the DA. They have come back with their decision on whether or not to have I guess they're either going to decide on resentencing or decide to do a trial. I am not sure which. I guess we'll hear in just a minute.
is that that first trial ended up in a deadlock, and they went to a second trial. And in that second trial, the judge did not allow the evidence of or any talk about sexual abuse, saying that there was no real proof that there had been any other than people saying it had. And that is when they were convicted and thus serving life in prison. So what Gascon has said, and what the attorneys for the family who would like to see them walk out of prison tomorrow, if they could, is that the new evidence includes a letter that Kyle supposedly wrote to his cousin and telling him and detailing the abuse that was never allowed into evidence. And that would, in essence, prove supposedly that he wasn't making it up when he stood up in the stand and talked about it. And the other one is the testimony later on by one of the band members from Menudo. And to counter that, what what the people who don't believe it say is that, and I do remember this, there were people on the stand in the first trial family members who said that the brothers had tried to convince them to come forward with false allegations against their father. So there's always that saying, the truth is somewhere in the middle. And sadly, this has broken down this family into very distinct bands. And at this point, though, I can tell you that it does look like Gascon is going to ask for a resentencing. Now, what does that mean? Keep in mind that there was supposed to be a hearing about this in December. This was all supposed to happen in December.
Hello, everybody, again, as you're coming in. Hope you're having a great day. Anyways, we are listening, waiting for the DA to come in. And tell us what his decision is, or their decision is, on the resentencing of Lyle and Eric Menendez, who were convicted in, I believe it was 96, of murdering their parents. In a second trial, the first trial was deadlocked, had a hung jury. So definitely we need to talk about this case. It's something I've been wanting to do, just have been so busy, I have not been able to get things together to do any of that. So here we go. Let's finish listening.
So why is Gascon making the announcement not only before the election, which is hotly contested, but also even before the Dodgers start taking over all the media attention tomorrow? That is what detractors like the brother of Kitty Menendez is saying.
Yeah.
There's no question that this is, in his mind at least, an effort to get votes. And in that way, it is successful, at least in getting attention, because, like I said, you've got media here from all around the world. I have not seen this kind of media grouping barely fitting into this room. And I wish I could show it to you, but we can barely turn our camera around in a very long time. There's so close to 300 journalists just packed together in this room.
From all around the world. It's gained worldwide attention, this headline-making case. So clearly, yes, that's why all eyes are on this announcement right now. And Christina, you made a good point, because you were mentioning the attorneys for Milton Anderson, the 90-year-old brother of Kitty Menendez. He actually filed a legal brief asking the court to keep the brother's original punishment. So yes, as you were mentioning, there are detractors from all this. And in this legal briefing, he says, you know, they shot their mother, Kitty, reloading to ensure her death. And according to his attorneys, they say the evidence remains overwhelmingly clear. The jury's verdict was just and the punishment fits the heinous crime. So even though we're talking a lot about the sympathetic views surrounding this case, given the different social time right now, there are detractors. As you were mentioning, this really divided this family up, obviously, and now is the big question, you know, the timing of this as well. Not only is this something, you know, Milton Anderson is hoping for in terms of gaining attention to this, but Nathan Hoffman, the challenger to DA George Gascon, is questioning the timeline of all this, Christina.
Well, and I'll tell you, because in the last press conference, I tried to ask these questions because I had spoken to Anderson's attorney, and I tried to ask these questions of the family attorney. How many times have I spoken to Garagos? And he has always answered my questions, and he didn't on this case. And now, before this, one of the things we have just been told is that there will be.
Like, would they hurry up and come on? Like, this was supposed to be 30 minutes ago.
No questions after this press conference.
There's no
And I will say, they were adults. It's not like they were 15 years old. They could have gotten out. One of them had gone to Princeton. They could have just said, no more, leaving. And of course, you can never say what you're going to do. I'm just making the point of what people said, because it's such a horrible thing to even think about. And the descriptions of the abuse were horrible. There's very little question that their father was a very controlling man, that his father was a very difficult man. And that alone was pretty evident.
Right.
Now, and it was allowed into testimony. It was just an issue of the sexual abuse. That became the needle, as it were, the line in the sand.
And as we continue,
that's what they're saying should have been allowed.
As we continue, Christina, thank you for that insight. To watch your live picture as family members start entering this room, we're expecting pretty much, hopefully, that the announcement will be made shortly. But I want to bring in Christine Devine, who's been hanging on, listening to all of this.
You know, I think two things can be true here. I think they can be victims of the abuse, and I think they can be spoiled rich kids that wanted their way. I don't think it's one or the other, actually. I think it's both.
Commentary. Also, you were here during the time of all this back in 1995. Let's go a year before this trial was even in the headlines. We were talking about the O.J. Simpson trial, and that was a very different verdict. But again, public sentiment around the judicial system, around prosecutors, around what the outcome was on that case. And then a year later to be followed by this. I mean, the public climate around that time, and this was before, court TV, before we had all of these splashy trials that people were following day in and day out. These were the two headline grabbing.
Oh, okay. I wish they would come on. Let me mute it and just let it play. Oops, I didn't want to do that.
There was some thought that the district attorney's office needed a win, and they got this win with the Eric and Lyle Menendez case. But now, Sandra, I'm thinking of all the generations who did not live through this era, who are just hearing about this perhaps on the Netflix series or news stories. They didn't live this era. But there have been so many cases about sexual abuse. We're talking Epstein, Cosby, Weinstein, a lot of different cases that have been brought to light. The Diddy case right now about sexual coercion or abuse. And I think that our eyes are open to it in a whole different way where we didn't talk about these things. How much did Kitty Menendez know or not know? But the thing is there truth to what Eric and Lyle are saying? Is there enough evidence to possibly give it some truth? And that's really what's weighing here on the DA's office with this letter from that was written to the relative from Eric and Lyle Menendez that their father was abusing them. And the band member from Menudo, to me, that was a true game changer.
Mm-hmm.
If this band member is coming forward saying that he was abused by the father who was in the entertainment business. Now, with all those cases where I just painted the picture of where we know much more
That is definitely
about the
huge,
concept of
having
abuse
that come out
and the
as
church
well.
abuse cases we've covered and those settlements, I think there's a tendency to say, well, maybe it's worth a look. Maybe I didn't know enough about this topic. And I've had a young man who's been calling me who was in one of these church abuse cases, and he and his brother were victimized, and he called me and said, I wanted to kill my abuser. I didn't.
I think this is, it's just a lot to process. It's a lot to think. Definitely with the different things happening in media now, people are speaking out and they are calling out their abusers and the fact that they were abused in these industries. Just something. All right. Come on, DA. Come on.
Right. As we've all been saying, yes, the issue is not, in fact, did they do the crime? They admitted that they did, but the reason behind it, right, that wasn't permissible in the court of law back then, now came to light, and clearly a different social period. Christina, we see some action inside that room. Is this about to begin?
And there have been several times where we've seen people beginning to walk up, but I do see Garagos beginning to walk out in such a way that he is escorting family members out, and that is what he has usually done in the past as they are about to begin. These were the family members who we've seen speaking about this before, and they're actually from all over the country.
There we see George
they have flown in.
Gascon.
They flew in a couple of weeks ago, and there's George Gascon saying hi to Joan.
I do think having Mark Garagos in
And
I wanted to mute it. Mark Garagos as an attorney is a big deal. But okay, here we go.
Check back in with you. And Christine Devine, thank you so much. Now we have the LA District Attorney George Gascon in front of the microphone there, expected to make this bombshell announcement.
And,
Let's listen.
Before I begin speaking, I want to also introduce some other people that are here with me, and I hope I'm pronouncing the names right because I've seen handwritten part of it. But I have Ana Maria Barat, Jose Menendez, Jose Menendez and niece Karen Vandermolen, and Katie's niece. They're all here with us. Also with us here is Brock Lunsford. He's the Assistant Head Deputy for the Post-Litigation Conviction Unit, and Nancy Cervier, who is the Deputy District Attorney in charge of the Resentencing Unit. Let me begin by telling you that this is a case where we've had many people in this office spend a great deal of time reviewing the case. I have to tell you unequivocally that we don't have a universal agreement. There are people in the office that strongly believe that the Menendez brothers should stay in prison the rest of their life, and they do not believe that they were molested. And there are people in the office that strongly believe that they should be released immediately and that they were in fact molested. I have to tell you that after a very careful review of all the arguments that were made for people on both sides of this equation, I came to a place where I believe that under the law, resentencing is appropriate, and I am going to recommend that to a court tomorrow.
That is huge. Huge.
In this particular case is that we're going to recommend to the court that the life without the possibility of parole be removed and that they will be sentenced for murder, which, because there are 2 murders involved, that will be 50 years to life. However, because of their age, under the law, since they were under 26 years of age at the time that these crimes occurred, they will be eligible for parole immediately.
That is huge.
On the resentencing side of it, I've spent literally probably hundreds of hours by now looking at this case. These cases were originally presented on the habeas side of it, which I'll explain in a moment what that is, last year, and then the request for prosecutor-initiated resentencing occurred earlier this year. And there have been people in this office working in these cases from the very beginning, as well as many other cases that we have. The reason why I'm here today and why I came in front of all of you about 10 days ago is because there was a more recent documentary about the case that again brought a tremendous amount of public attention. And we know there have been other documentaries, so this is not the first, this is a more recent one. And frankly, our office got flooded with requests for information. And even though this case was already scheduled to be heard in late November, I decided to move this forward because, quite frankly, we did not have enough resources to handle all the requests. And one of the things that I thrive to do in this office is to be very transparent in everything that we do. In this case, we review the prison files. And you have to understand that the way the process works, when you're talking about a sentence and resentencing under the law, it really focuses not necessarily on what the original crimes were, but it focuses on, has the person been rehabilitated, number one, and number two, can they be released safely into the community? Under that rubric, since I've been in office, we have resentenced over 300 people, including 28 for murder. Only 4 have reoffended. If that was a regular recidivism rate in this country, we would be the safest nation in the world, but we know that it's not. In fact, somewhere between 40 and 50% of the people that go to prison reoffend and get rearrested. And that's why we have so many problems. However, when you look at the case of the Menendez brothers, you see 2 very young people. One was 19 and the other was 21 when they committed this horrible acts. And I want to underline, they were horrible acts. There is no excuse for murder. And I will never imply that what we're doing here is to excuse that behavior. Because even if you get abused, the right path is to call the police, seek help. But I understand also how sometimes people get desperate. We often see women, for instance, that have been battered for years, and sometimes they will murder their abuser out of desperation. And I do believe that the brothers were subjected to a tremendous amount of dysfunction in the home and molestation. But they went to prison for life without the possibility of parole, which meant that certainly on.
Hello, welcome everybody coming in. We have just heard from the DA. Of course, he is still talking, and that he is recommending that the brothers be resentenced, which, because they committed the act under the age of 26, would mean that they had served enough time and would be eligible for immediate release or immediate parole.
Did that. To the contrary, even though they didn't think that they would ever be let free, they engaged in a different journey. A journey of redemption and a journey of rehabilitation. And often the people that begin their journey of rehabilitation and redemption in prison is often very internal. And what they do, and one of our lawyers pointed out this today, is usually the path is people try to further their education, do things for self-improvement, which the brothers have done, by the way. But it's more unique or less usual, I guess, when people not only do that, but they also begin to engage in ways to make life for others better. And in this case, the brothers have been doing so for a very long time, creating groups to deal with how to address untreated trauma, creating groups to deal with other inmates that have physical disabilities and may be treated differently. Even in one case, Lyle negotiating for other inmates as to the conditions that they live under during prison. And all this was done by two young people, now they're not as young, that had no hopes of ever getting out of prison. They have been in prison for nearly 35 years. I believe that they have paid their debt to society, and the system provides a vehicle for their case to be reviewed by a parole board, and if the parole concurs with my assessment, and it will be their decision, they will be released accordingly. I must underline, however, this case will be filed in court tomorrow. The final decision will be made by the judge. Court has to agree with my conclusion that they deserve to be resentenced. It is very possible that there may be members of this office that will be present in court opposing the resentencing. And they have a right to do so. And we encourage those that disagree with us to speak, and the court is the appropriate place to do it. We certainly feel we're very sure not only that the brothers have rehabilitated and that they will be safe to be reintegrated in our society, but that they have paid their dues, not only for the crimes that they committed, but because of all the other things they have done to improve the life of so many others. So, again, we will be filing for resentencing tomorrow. We're seeking that they would be sentenced to life with the possibility of parole, as opposed to life without the possibility of parole, which is they currently have. That means that they would have 50 years to life because there were two murders. But because of the age upon which they were convicted, under 26, under current law, that means they're eligible for youthful parole. I think there is also important to have some introspection today, because I think that often,
I am so happy with this.
for cultural reasons,
I am so happy with this news. I can't even put into words how happy I am for this news. I have always felt that these boys are brothers. I mean, they're not boys anymore. They're older than me. Deserve to be out.
convict them of manslaughter, which, if that were have been the case, they would have been off prison a long time ago. And then there was a second trial, and then they were convicted of murder with special circumstances, which led to the life without the possibility of parole. But it's salient to understand that our own implicit and sometimes explicit bias around sexual abuse and sexual assaults often leads us to severe injustices in our community. And I want to speak to those that are victims of sexual assault now, whether you're a man or a woman. Know that we're here for you. If you're a victim of sexual assault in this community, and by that we're talking about LA County, not just LA City, you can come for help. Whether you're prepared to prosecute or not, we will be here for you. We have services for you. And if you're prepared to move forward with the prosecution, we will evaluate it as we do any other case. And if we believe that the evidence is there to present a credible case in front of a jury that can be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, we would proceed accordingly. You do not have to suffer alone. You don't have to keep it to yourself. And help is here unconditionally. I'm going to say a few words in Spanish because I know there's tremendous amount of interest from the Spanish.
I think anybody who is suffering in that capacity, reach out to somebody. You are not alone, and you should not be hiding. You should not feel that you have no help. You should not feel that there is nowhere to turn. I know that I know many people that would help someone in this kind of circumstance. I do like this DA. I kind of felt this was the direction he was going to go with different things he has said. Now the office is split on this. Some of those that were in the office were part of the team that convicted the brothers. So I do think it's going to be a fight in with the judge. I don't know if they're going to televise that. I hope they do. I would like to hear the arguments and see what is done with this. I mean, he's recommending it, but it's not in stone yet. So we still need to keep pressing forward and signing the petitions and making the phone calls and the emails and showing the support, because it is definitely a different age now. Like he said, it's never okay to take another life. That's why we have to make a means to help those that are in danger like this. And evidently, the other trial is back. I've been watching the Leilani Simon trial, and the jury got the verdict. Oh, maybe I need to switch over. Holy cow. Okay. Let me pull that up. Ain't what I want. Why is it not showing it? Oh, it's on Law and Crime. It's not on Court TV yet. Okay, hold on, guys. I'm trying to see if this is there so we can pull it up. It's on Law and Crime. Oh, it's a question. Okay. Okay, so it's not a verdict. Okay. Just a okay. It's not a verdict. They just wanted more copies of the paperwork. Yeah, it's just going to depend on the judge. I think it just depending on the judge that gets assigned. Yeah, it is an election year. And I do think that is playing a factor. And that's been some of the argument of the family that doesn't agree with this. It's an election year, and that's why they're giving in, because those young voters, they won't change. And maybe that is the case. But sorry, I'll take it at this point. I'll take it at this point. So, okay, I am probably going to come back live later tonight and let's start talking Menendez because this is good news. Thank y'all for joining me while we got to hear what the DA had to say. And let's keep covering this. And I will see y'all back later tonight.